Welcome to Confident Coparenting, building a better life for you and your kids. I'm your host, Jeanne Ward. This show goes beyond co-parenting. It's about self-discovery and personal growth. Separation and divorce can shake your sense of identity, but my goal is to help you feel at ease in your own skin, both as a parent and in your new life. Through engaging conversations, I'll share tips, tools, and mindset shifts to help you build confidence, communicate effectively, and strengthen your self-identity. Let's dive in and see your situation in a new light, because when you thrive, so do your kids. A better future starts now. Hi, I'm Jeanne Ward, and you're listening to Confident Coparenting on Transformation Talk Radio. The journey to confident co-parenting is one of growth, self-awareness, and health and healing. And sometimes along that journey, we definitely need love and a dose of reality at times. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Vernon Gramling, who has deeply influenced my journey. He's helped me on my path by offering not only unconditional support, but also holding a mirror up. And he does this with the people that he works with, that he holds this mirror up to help us see the parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily want to see. But it helps us see some of the obstacles and blockages that are holding us back from the life we want and from being that confident co-parent that we want to be. So I'm super excited to have Vernon with us today. Welcome, Vernon.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Good, me too. Um, so with confident co-parenting, I often talk about three relationships that are really important as we kind of go through this experience of separation and divorce as a parent. And one, which is really critical, is that relationship with ourselves. The other is the relationship that we have with our children and or stepchildren. And then lastly, one that can be really challenging is the relationship or lack thereof with our ex. You help people navigate all three of those dynamics and relationships. And I wanted to have you here because you bring a wealth of experience from your own life, as well as with all the people that you have worked with over the years in many different scenarios and situations. And you not only bring amazing insight, but you also have really pertinent stories and perspectives that have always helped me when we've talked, and I know from others how helpful it's been to them. So, in regards to your own life and how you have had all the different experiences of your life, I'd love to hear and let the audience know how you got to be who you are today. You started in a career in the ministry and found your way to therapy, and I'd love for you to share more about how you took that path and how you got to where you are today.
I will try not to take up all of our time. Um, well, I think the most important question is why did I stay in the ministry? I had been in the church as a young boy, full of questions, and had begun to think that the only way I could have any faith journey was to have a lobotomy, and that was unacceptable. So my curiosity drove me forward. And how I got to seminary is another story. But while I was in seminary, I had a brother who was diagnosed with an osteosarcoma, and he was to die my senior year. And in spite of all of my questions and skepticism,
Hmm.
I discovered that during that funeral, and I discovered this, that I still believed in a world where genocide was a routine occurrence, in a world where children were dying, that I still believed it was important to love. And I've spent my life trying to figure out what I thought about what I actually meant by that.
Mm. And so I understand how that led you to the seeking and therapy world, the world of mental health and learning about ourselves and others. I could also see it, though, really challenging your belief in a higher being or God. Can you tell us a little bit more about your connection with the ministry and staying and actually going into ministry after that experience, which must have been so hard?
Well, there are so many. One of the things that happens to me whenever I let people know that I'm ordained is that I get stereotyped into oblivion. And people have all kinds of assumptions about what faith means and what I believe. And they're usually talking to themselves.
Mm,
Um, so rather than going through a long dissertation, I can only tell you that the questions that I was asking, I have come to learn, have been asked for several thousand years. And I have learned a lot by not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There are plenty of absurd things and terrible ways that religion has been used. But in my understanding, the core is what makes a life meaningful. And that rotates around this word love and not a Hallmark card kind of love, but a love that actually engages people in the messy part of our lives.
yeah, yeah, which I think that's something that I've experienced you bringing that knowledge and connection with others into your work.
Mhm.
And to me, that's what makes you so powerful in how you help people. Um, and I will say that I don't think I knew when we first met that you had been ordained or had that background at all. And I do remember feeling very shocked when I learned that.
Little SOB.
It just isn't I know it's so ingrained in who you are, but it's not something that it's I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not something that you preach when you're working with people. Um,
Uh, I don't find that necessary.
yeah, yeah. Well, and something you just said I loved about the questions that people ask being more about them
Mhm.
than it is us. And that's something else that I think is really critical. And as we're talking about that first relationship of that relationship with ourselves, when I
Mhm.
talked about the three different relationships, the relationship with ourselves, that's something that I found really helpful that you've shared over the years, which is in the growth of ourselves and our own healing, when we put a lot of focus on what others are saying or doing or questioning, it takes the focus off of ourselves
Mhm.
and how important it is to, focus on ourselves and our own growth rather than what they're saying, because like you said, what they're saying is usually about them more so than it is us. Can you talk a little bit more and share with us about the relationship that we have with ourselves, and especially someone going through separation, divorce, having to parent, maybe even parenting stepkids, having a blended family possibly, or all of the above. How how does a person manage that, and what's the most important thing an adult can do to live a smooth and grounded life with all of that going on?
Yeah, your questions are huge. Uh, my first thought is that uh, it's really important to spend some time thinking about what kind of person you want to be.
Mm,
What are your values? Uh, so many of us get married at least the first time, and maybe the second or third or the fourth, depending on the person, looking to get something. And it takes quite a bit of maturity, actually, to learn that relationships are about what we offer, not what we get.
mm.
And that has to be a choice. Um, you don't have any control over what you get. I don't care how good you are. And but you do have control over what you're willing to offer. And that
Yeah.
requires deciding to live that way and then deciding how much juice you have to do it. Because
Yeah.
just because it's a good idea doesn't mean you're capable or any of us are capable.
How would someone who is, let's say, going through divorce or maybe newly divorced and they they're listening to this and they hear that it's really about what you offer versus what you get, and they just got out of a relationship or marriage where they feel they were offering so much and not getting anything, which was part of what made the decision to leave. How would you support them and or advise them?
Well, relationships require some kind of reciprocity. We just cannot control the reciprocity.
Got it.
And if you're not feeling like there is enough reciprocity, then you can't stay. Uh, it just isn't, you'll hold it against them when you don't get it.
Yeah.
You'll be resentful. And I have a kind of an operating rule that um, you have every right to leave, but I won't support retaliation.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I'm not stupid. I know people retaliate all the time, but that's an occasion for self-examination. Um, that's just part of what we have to go through.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it doesn't lead anywhere.
Yeah. And if it does, it's usually not a great place.
That's divorces get a whole lot more expensive when that's what's going on.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, and I think that's a really great example of what I mentioned before, holding up the mirror, helping people see maybe some thoughts or behaviors that are not supporting the life they might want if they want a life of ease and peace.
Yeah, and we're speaking about this like it's all logical. But when people are injured, lizard brains take over, and we do a lot of things that later
Yeah.
we might be embarrassed about.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's messy, and there just has to be room to work through that. It, but now we go back to getting some idea, even through trial and error, of what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of parent do you want to model yourself as? Uh,
Yeah.
and if you you don't do that, you might do it just fine, but you reduce the odds.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, and I love that you're bringing it back to looking at your values and the life that you want. That's something I also promote when I'm working with people is by session two, we're looking at what are your values, and by session three, we're talking about your vision.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's great. And sometimes therapy is really needed though to figure out, internally and from historical stuff, how to work through it before you can get there. So, so yeah, really important. You mentioned lizard brain, which makes me think of that second relationship with the kids. They're a little closer to that lizard brain than we are more often. But I want to take one moment. I want to take a break before we get into talking about the kids and let the audience know, Vernon, how they can get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about you and or work with you.
The easiest way is my email, which is simply my name, Vernon Gramling at gmail.com. No caps, no underlines, no periods.
Easy. Excellent. Thank you. And for the audience, if you are just tuning in or you'd like to watch this over again or other videos of other episodes, please go to YouTube, the Transformation Network, and you can find this series, this podcast, and more. And you can always go to Confident Coparenting, my site, and go to the podcast tab. So, coming back to that relationship with your children and or stepchildren, that can be a tough one. Um, what what advice do you have for parents that are really trying to navigate the complexities of going through a divorce and or post-divorce, and they're really trying to support and manage their children and or stepchildren while still healing themselves? What advice do you have for parents?
Okay, let me take the last one. Parenting in any circumstance is hard work, and I don't care how many podcasts you watch or books you read, it's always harder than we think. And
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
have this idealization of what a good parent is, and then when we don't meet it, people feel bad, sometimes even ashamed, and that just stunts everything. So finding a way to get some support while you're doing this job is really important. I mean, good friends who will talk straight with you. There are a gazillion helping professionals out there, but creating some space for the adult to get fed enough to feed the children.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's a great advice. Um, you've shared different stories with me in regards to blended families and stepkids, and I know that one thing that you have talked about is in your own personal life how you've engaged with or how you did engage with stepkids in acting as a grandparent, like a grandparent's role. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, the primary parents are going to be the biological parents. Now, there are exceptions. I mean, if you get an extremely dysfunctional family, but we're talking about most ordinary folks. The relationship didn't work, but that doesn't mean there's a big diagnosis out there. The relationship didn't work.
Yeah.
So even though the step parent is involved with the kids, the primary authority has to come from that biological parent. And that's my opinion. And a grandparent can love the children deeply, but doesn't get a direct say. Can have offer opinions, but when the rubber hits the road, it's the parent who has to decide when bedtime is going to be and
Mm,
how much candy gets eaten and what gets read. Uh, and ideally, the relationship is strong enough between in the new relationship to discuss those things. But the kids need to remember that the new parent isn't trying to supplant the old. I mean, it's hard enough to deal with the blended family without feeling like you have to please one side or take one side. And the parents need to be mindful of that dilemma for the children. And
yeah.
and of course, in real life, kids aren't always kind to new parents, and it's easy to be reactive.
Yeah.
And that's when the couple has to spend some time and appreciate each other's position. But in terms of the actual who talks to the child, first preference is the biological parent. If they can't do it, maybe you can have a pairing. But I mean, my own rule of thumb is that I would not talk to the child myself as a step parent unless I checked with my wife first.
Mm,
Had that discussion with her.
yeah. Yeah. And I'm taking it that that worked well for you too.
Well,
Oh, okay.
on the
Maybe
days it
not.
worked well, it worked really well. On the days we were in conflict, not so well at all.
Yeah. Well, and the struggle of families, right? Is what I'm hearing, whether it's blended or not. Is there anything else that jumps into your head or thoughts in regards to struggles that a blended family might come across that wouldn't necessarily come up if it's not blended?
Oh, well, the first place I went was Well, I just mentioned I don't want a child to have to choose between people who love them.
Mm,
And um, it's the responsibility of the parent to be mature enough to know that a kid can't get too much love
yeah,
and to make it about us. And it's so easy to do, especially when you're wounded and feel rejected in another relationship, to want to hang on to the idea that you still matter and turn each bit of compliance into a test case. Do you really love me?
yeah,
And that's a bad policy, whether you are in a blended family or in an ordinary, supposedly intact family.
right, right. Well, and this leads right into that third relationship that I mentioned at the beginning, which is with the ex, because so often when you have two parents who are separating or divorced, and I even see it years post-divorce where there are still struggles amongst those two co-parents. I often see where their true comfort in how they want to be a parent starts to come out.
Mhm.
That, when they were together, they probably did a lot of working with each other and collaborating. Whereas now, when they're apart, oftentimes the homes will be parented very differently, and that can be challenging. And then sometimes there's judgment coming in of, well, my way's the right way, yours is the wrong way. Um, and so there can be a lot of that struggle amongst the two parents. Did you want to jump
Oh
in?
yeah, yeah. No, this is very personal. My ex married a man who was very conservative religiously,
Hmm.
and I'm not. And so um, the kids, and they were quite young, in their family were not allowed to watch cartoons because of the devil's influence.
Hmm.
But they were allowed to watch an adult soap opera called Dallas, if you remember it.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, I think the kids were 8 and 6 at the time. And I said, look, your mom has an entirely different way of parenting and different rules. And you're going to have to remember which house you're in.
Mm.
Because in our house, you can watch cartoons, but you may not watch Dallas. In her house, her rules.
Yeah.
Now, and I said the day will come when you will get to choose, but right now you have to remember which house you're in.
Yeah. Which can be tough on the kids. My son says that the two hardest things for him living between two homes, one was the traveling back and forth, the switching of homes, and the other was that there were some rules were the same, some were different, and it was hard for him to keep track. My response was, well, you also have different rules at school and you abide by those. You have different rules on the football field, you abide by those,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it can be challenging for the kid.
Well, I don't know how intentional your son's conversation was, but I know him to be a pretty smart kid, and I don't think he had that much trouble sorting out the rules. But he might have been able to use it as a lever against mom.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And our kids do this though, right?
Oh yeah,
They're
I mean
they're
that's their
smart
job.
and savvy. Yeah. Um, and we did okay with still my ex and I getting along throughout, but what about those families where it is just so hard to get along with the ex, and then if the child is also kind of playing the exes against each other, how often does that happen, and how do you help people through that?
Well, so again, personal story. I really worked and was very intentional about trying to at least be verbally respectful with somebody that I absolutely disagreed with.
Mm,
Okay. And when my kids were in their 20s, I asked each of them um, how successful I've been.
Uh-huh.
And they say, Dad, we knew you couldn't stand her. There's very few things that you're going to hide from your kids.
Yeah.
And uh, to the degree that we can, I think it's important to be transparent with our own struggle and let the kids know that they're going to have to sort this out and make their own choices.
Yeah.
Um, because they're going to do that anyway. You might
Right.
go along with that process.
Right. Yeah. No, and I love what you're saying about the authenticity of our own feelings. I think where it can get into a murky place is when parents start sharing too much of those feelings to the point of it is bad mouthing the other parent, and then that is harmful to the child.
And they'll spot that a mile away. Uh, when I saw I was going to get a divorce because it's my profession, I started asking as many people as would talk to me, kids or parents, um, spouses, exes, all the rest, what it had been like. And the thing that I kept hearing over and over again is that kids sort it out. They can tell who loved them.
Mm, I love
And
that.
loving kids means you show respect for how they see the world and help them through it. That doesn't mean they get what they want. That's very different.
Yeah.
But if your value is to show respect toward other human beings and your children, and you want to model that, they will see it. And you
Yeah.
can have a Disneyland dad, and I've seen women go crazy over such men, but the kids are bribable, but not indefinitely for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Very true. And we are almost at the end of our time. I'm really loving these stories, and I hate to have to cut it short. As we close up, though, any last thoughts and or final words that you want to share with the audience?
Well, my last words was be gentle. This is a gut-wrenching experience for most of us, even if it's carefully thought through and mutually agreed. And it's important that most of us are doing the important things in life for the first time. And showing a little forgiveness and a little compassion goes a long way towards getting through this.
Yeah. And that's specifically gentleness and compassion for ourselves as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. And if
Yeah.
there's some situations that the only thing I could do was to quit talking
Mm.
because anything I said was going to be inflammatory.
Yeah.
I succeeded at least 10% of the time.
Vernon, thank you so much. It was wonderful having you here today and hearing some of your stories, a lot of your insights and knowledge. Thank you for being here. And again, everyone, if you want to get in touch with Vernon, it's your email, which is vernongramling@gmail.com, correct?
Correct?
Excellent. And you can also get in touch with me at confidentcoparenting.com to learn more about myself, my coaching, as well as other podcasts. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.